You would stand and join me in the moment of silence, please. Thank you. Salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So to get started, we've got to get our questions figured out, what we're doing, make sure everybody understands, and the process goes smooth when the candidates get in here. You turn in your books, questions are listed by criterion 1 through 10. Had a suggestion that we should try maybe let the person from each district that matches the criterion number ask a question from that group. In other words, criterion 1 would be Ms. Stahl. She could pick a question 1, 2, or 3 to ask on the first go round, and so on down the line. So, not being that she's not here yet, kind of hard to ask her.
Yeah, but she was supposed to be the last one to ask the question.
I know,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
She may be. If we start off, if she's not here with number 2, so Scott,
Yes.
Okay.
you have a preference for question criterion 2?
I had chosen number 2 as my first choice for
Two
the
is
question
2.
on.
2 on 2?
Yes.
Two.
Now, if we come back around for some reason and we have time to ask a second row of questions, you can go back and ask the other questions. But if we do that, we'll have to do the same with the second candidate. I just want to be the same on each one of these. So, Ms. Sherry, criterion 3, you want to ask question 1 or 2?
2.
Okay. Criterion 4 would be Anita. 5 would be Mr. Nick. 3 choices.
Who's going to do 10?
You have a choice.
I didn't even hear you ask me a question, I apologize.
In criterion 5, there are 3 questions.
Sure.
Which one would you like to ask first?
Let's go with number 1.
And if we come back around on the second one, be ready to ask that. We'll ask whatever one you want. Second candidate.
Gotcha.
So, John,
Number 7. Chose number 3.
okay. On number 6, I'm gonna ask question 2, but I'll be in order as we go.
Okay.
And then Travis,
I'm gonna start with number 3, and if it comes back around, I'll go to 2.
okay. And Shannon.
Number 2, please.
Is there a volunteer to ask questions for number 10?
Make it Scott.
I'll be happy to ask it. That's fine.
Do you want me to do,
That one, where was the one I was thinking?
Number 2, Mr. King's what I had chosen.
he picked all the ones I picked, Scott.
I know.
Now,
Travis
just in
picked on
the
it,
event
too.
that Miss Elizabeth doesn't give you that, who would ask a question on number one? It'll have to be the same one each time.
We could flip, I was gonna say, we could flip flop her and Anita. If we wanted to.
You're asking 2 on 10, is that what you said?
Yes.
I don't mind doing number one if Ms. Stoll's not here.
Okay?
Miss Stoll is here now. She's coming.
Come
You see her? Awesome.
Okay, good. All right. So what do we want
What
to do
about
for number
Anita?
4? I can do Anita's.
Which question will you?
Number 2.
2 for Anita.
That was number 4.
Yes.
Scott, which one did you say you were gonna do? On number two?
10, 2.
Number 2.
Number two on
Yes.
two, okay.
2 on number 2 and 2 on number 10.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, so you want to go down the line, just make sure we have
I
them
think the
all?
door was locked.
Oh,
She's right there. Oh, there she goes.
she's what I.
Just list them off as a recap so everybody knows.
Perfect. So we'll have question number 2, the criterion 2 will be Scott first. Then we will go to criterion 3, question number 2 is Shannon. Criterion 4, question number 2, you'll be asking for Anita if she doesn't show. And
Which one is that question?
Number 2 for criterion 4.
Going by district.
And for criterion 5,
Criteria 1, pick a question.
that will be question number 1 for Nick. And for criterion 6, question number 2, that will be me. Criterion 7, question number 2, question number 3 will be John.
Did you say 2 for you, Mr. King?
Yes. 2 for me, 3 for Mr.
John.
Matthews. And criterion 8 will be Travis asking question number 3. Criterion 9 will be Ms. Shannon asking question number 2. And criterion 10 will be Scott asking question number 2. If we go back around for another loop, let me tell Miss Elizabeth there. Criterion 1,
You get to pick your question. District 1 for criterion 1.
Number 2 for the first round.
okay? All righty.
You just know which one you want to do.
And when we go back through that, if we come to number 10, we still got plenty of time, which I don't think we will, but if we do, we'll start back
Number 2.
with you.
Okay.
And you're going to ask
Sorry,
the,
Sherry, we'll go to Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
I'll do
Okay.
number 3 if we give round 2.
Okay.
and you're going to ask the first 2 questions, Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
The general questions? Okay.
I think I remember that. You said general questions. So, in the general questions, the first page, there are 3 questions. Y'all have a preference on which one we ask there? I'll ask you.
Mine's number 3. Yep.
That's a hard pick because I like all those actually.
Mhm.
They're all pertinent.
Is that an option just to ask all three?
I
I
agree.
actually had all 3 of them circled myself. but-
That's, yeah.
Okay. We can do that.
I don't think the answers would take a real long time on those.
Yeah.
I think they're important.
So question number 1, what were you a general of? I said, so question number 1 is what exactly were you the general of?
The general of.
Oh.
So let's see. Anyone else want to ask any one of these questions at the list?
On the general ones, me?
Yeah. don't want to hog the show.
Do you want to ask a general question?
I will, I don't mind.
Now, say I'm happy to do any questions. Doesn't really be-
1, 2, and 3.
So let's see. Who's already asking questions? Two questions.
I'm asking, Scott and I are both asking 2 questions. Mhm.
Share the well. Sherry?
Elizabeth, you want to ask a general question?
Which one?
That's in the very front of the
Oh,
question.
I haven't, picked which one?
Oh, whichever.
But
Pick
it
one.
was my juice.
Yep, you pick.
Pick one.
Um, Number 2.
Okay. Travis, which one would you like?
I don't know to do number 1.
Okay.
So we ask these first?
Yes.
I'll go through the welcome and that sort of stuff, and then I'll say, okay, question number 1 goes to Travis. Question number 2 goes to Elizabeth. Question number 3, anybody want in?
Sure. Take it. Oh, you do it. You do it. Go. Go for it.
Okay.
Nick on 3.
On 3.
Okay.
Then we'll go through these, get all these first questions asked. We still have time, we'll go back and start through the second question. Just whichever one it is, we'll mark it down and then you ask it the same to the next candidate.
Right.
So we want to have a hard stop time for our questions in order to allow time for their questions, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna watch the clock there. Generally speaking, I think we should give them a couple of minutes to warm up and say what they want to say, introducing themselves. And then we'll start in on the questions. I'm gonna ask them to keep their answers to 3 minutes. If that gets us, use up most of our time. If they use it up quicker, make a 30-second answer, then we'll get through it quick and we'll have to go to round 2.
So we're gonna have them ask their questions after the second round or after the first round?
At the end, I'm gonna stop at 50-minute point, have them to give their summation of what they want to say in 5 minutes. Then I'll give them 5 minutes to ask questions. Then we'll turn them, go to the next, do the same thing again. That works for everybody.
How we even determine who answers their question? What's the preference there? Like, they're not gonna know any of, or, well, Dr. Shannon's not gonna know
That
any
will
of.
probably be the only part about the interview that's different, whatever they ask, because we don't know.
Yeah,
So if they ask a question, and somebody wants to take it, raise your hand.
okay.
We'll let you take it. All of you raise your hands. You can just have at them.
Do you want parliamentarian to keep the time on it? Scott, parliamentarian, do you mind tracking the time on things? Just to ensure we keep them moving along.
Who's doing the official transcribing recording of said?
Special call, it's gonna be Jason. Right, Jason?
Should.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be here, and he's probably supposed to be here.
I've done that.
Oh, yeah.
I know it's
When you're desperate, you're desperate.
official is the director, well, interim is one who interviewed, so.
Yeah,
This right here.
yeah. Jason's the one who usually.
Mr. Simple copy his nose is like.
Anything else you want?
opposed, say no. The ayes have it. We'll do our best to do what we said we're going to do.
Exactly. Stay consistent. Do what?
Should have got ahead of here. No, it's gonna be comfortable, but
We use Excel, we don't, you know, just say anything. Yeah, we can.
So if we had to ask all three of these questions.
Oh, that makes more sense. But we only have, Sharon, we only have one copy of this. So I wasn't writing on this one. Oh. I only have one copy. So what I did is I wrote their names on here, and then I'll put what I for here on here for this one, and then for the next one, put
That is for you. Good? Okay, closing the hours minute. Thank you for making the trip up today. We appreciate it.
Nice drive. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you had a good, well, except for a little rain this morning, you had a good weather day for it.
Yeah, well, I actually didn't have any, the rain for me was next to nothing. I had a few drops, so when I got into town here, there it looked like the bottom had dropped out, coming into the main part, well, I don't know what the main part of town, but it looked like the bottom had dropped out there, but I didn't get any of that.
Yeah, good. Makes for a safe drive then.
Dr. Shannon, we're glad to have you here. This is the board tonight. We've got our names up here. Got a couple of members not here yet, so if they show up, we know what to do. We've got a plan.
Okay.
Is that seat comfortable?
Oh, yes, perfectly fine. Thank
You
you.
got the wrong one then.
I like good jokes, doesn't it?
So the way we're going to do the process tonight, we're going to give you a few minutes to speak up front. Maybe keep it to 2 or 3, just what introductory comments. And we'll go through a series of 10 questions.
Okay.
At the end, we'll give you a few minutes to make a wrap up and then ask us any questions.
Okay.
We try to get this done in an hour. Just 1 hour's misery is all you got to worry about. So as we go here, we've got a couple of general questions. I'm going to start off with Mr. Cole asking you a question.
Howdy, Dr. Shannon.
Hey.
We've read your resume, and we know some things about you. Is there something else that was not included in your resume that you would like for us to know?
Well, as far as professionally, I think that's everything that I've done of any note. I will say one of the things you don't put in your resume, I suppose, is that my desire is just to help people be the best version of themselves that they can be. I like to have that in my life. I work by those two driving principles that I told all the other groups, that I live by intentional actions and living a life of contentment. So that's not in my resume, but so whatever your decision ultimately here is, I'm okay with it. Whether it's sitting in a more uncomfortable seat or enjoying the beauty of my home that I've been in for the bulk of my life is okay too. Is there anything else?
Unless you have anything else.
No.
As a part of that, if you'd like to do your introductory comments.
Well, my name is Randy Shannon. I am a 30-year veteran in the school system. I've been an administrator for over 20 years. Currently serving as a supervisor of college and career readiness in Benton County, which is about the third of your size. So we have 6 schools and with all the same problems. We have a population of a little less than a third of your population here. I have been the CT director for about 20 years now. I served as principal of Career and Technical Education Center, which is supplemental high school to them. And did that for several years. Worked 3 years as an assistant principal in a middle school that served grades 6, 7, and 8. I've come to understand that you're looking to see if you want to break up some of your pre-K 8 schools into middle schools. So that'd be an interesting conversation to have. Along the way, I've tried to pivot my life so that I was prepared for the rigor of being in a school system, and so along the way I decided to go to law school, did that. I have a little private practice on the side where I do wills and trusts, and every once in a blue moon when I take a vacation day or two, I'll step into court for a small matter, but it just keeps you engaged, keeps your mind going. But I work as the Title IX decision maker. I was told that you're not having a lot of problem with Title IX now, but I think it's coming to a school near you soon. That seems to be a wave that's pushing through lots of districts. So I don't envy you when it does get here. I'm married to the love of my life. Her name is Jamie. And even though she's the love of my life, she left me to go to a 5-day vacation. Just got back from Daytona Beach. She went with my son and his fiance and her aunt and uncle. So they had a great time without me. Just got back all safe and sound, so we're pleased with that. And our son works for the Postal Service. He's a city carrier in the great sprawling metropolitan area of Camden. So he enjoys that. My future daughter-in-law is an LPN, about ready to start back on her BSN. And so, BSRN, I'm sorry. Got a lot of letters there. So that's what's going on in my life. And I've got a little boy at home whose name is Boomer, and he's an Aussie poodle. And I stayed home with him, and we had a great time enjoying the bachelor life for a few days. So that's, I guess, in a nutshell, good enough for me.
Thank you. Ms. Stoll, start with this general
Okay.
question.
All right. Dr. Shannon, thank you for coming today. What will you do to create an atmosphere in the schools that will lead to educational excellence for all students?
Well, I believe that educational excellence starts with personal motivation, and personal motivation starts with the ability to see a goal. And so until our students can see the value of education, it's hard for them to want to give their time for education. Somewhere along the way, we lost the path where people think that education isn't valuable anymore. And so we've got to work to sell ourselves as a school system back to the community that we're a valuable commodity, that it does mean something to have a high school education. It does mean something to do well in school. And so to help get that, I think that if we can retool ourselves to get out of the model that we've been in, where they come to us and we work with them, to more of an engaging model where we're trying to seek out those active partnerships with parents and community stakeholders. I think that's the way that we turn the ship around. Now remember, we didn't get here overnight, and we're not going to turn it around overnight. So it takes a long time. They tell me to turn a aircraft carrier in the ocean. So, but we do have to start. Did that answer your question, ma'am?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Davis?
Hello, Dr. Shannon. I'm Nick Davis here in the 5th District. What do you believe to be your strengths that you would bring to this position?
Well, my absolute strength is I'm an obstacle remover. If we have a problem, then I work. I'm a very good problem solver. I do a lot of out-of-the-box thinking. I think that plays into my law training, to see matters from multiple perspectives. How can we do something that we may not have been able to do? So I think that is my greatest strength, to see problems from multiple angles and to provide alternative solutions.
Thank you, sir.
Back to criterion 1, Ms. Dahl.
Can you share an example of a time when a staff member or community member proposed an idea you initially disagreed with but later embraced after listening to their perspective?
I tend to be a person that when you come to me, I work under the premise that sometimes if it isn't broke, let's not fix it. But anytime, and there are countless minor examples that would be throughout the time, but anytime somebody has a plan that takes them forward and says, well, here's what we could do, I don't. It doesn't matter if I like it or not. Let's give it a try if we think it'll be successful. And in that area, one of the things that we did is start up some new programs that we didn't always have, and they wanted to give it a try. So we started some new CT programming, and they turned out okay. Despite the fact that I was going, I don't know if the community is going to engage in this. I don't know if this is going to be a big deal. How we're going to fund the programming that we're going to try to start, but they proved and did well with it. Did that answer your question?
Thank you.
Mr. Van Winkle?
Hello, Dr. Shannon. Just got a question on, this is actually the criterion that speaks, that you speak and write effectively to communicate the successes as well as the needs of the school system. My question is, how do you balance sharing the successes of the school district while also highlighting areas where improvement is needed? And can you give an example of when you've done this?
Well, so let me make sure I got the question right. So when have I talked about sharing the successes of the school while also talking about the needs of improvement?
Yes, that's
So you do that with every teacher every year. As a principal, one of the things that you have to do, and the supervisors, that you meet with the teachers that it's yours to do with, and do a very intimate evaluation of how well they did or didn't do. You do that with your normal observations that are going on. And then collectively to have staff meetings where you're looking at the whole school. And one of the areas where we weren't really moving as forward as rapidly as I wanted to was the embracing of industry credentials. One of the things is it's very hard for us to get them where we're at because we don't have a lot of industry partners, and it's a smaller area, not as much industry in the region around us. And so we began developing partnerships, and where we transitioned more into dual enrollment opportunities with some of our classes through our TCAT partnerships, which is our closest higher education partner. Our community college is Jackson State, which is about 45, 60 miles away, so it's not as easy to interface with them. But we did transition and pivot to that, and then the question is, how well are we working with those partners to make sure that we're meeting their needs? Because the TCAT has got responsibilities as well. They're getting taxpayer money just the same as anybody else, so they need to be being good stewards of that. So that's looking at the engagement there. And we stopped a program that wasn't doing so well. And we're not going to start it back up right now, because everybody's got to understand that we just don't go in and waste money. We don't go in and waste people's time. So if it's not going to be productive, then we need to step back from it. So that's part of the overall evaluation.
Nice. Yeah, thank you.
Hello, Dr. Shannon. Hey. I'm Sherry Nichols, District 3. So mine is, it has the wisdom to know when change is necessary and the ability and determination to generate such change even in the face of opposition. And my question would be, what process do you use to determine whether a change is truly necessary for the school or district? And how do you gather input and make decisions?
Well, as I told the groups that I met with, I think I said this in all of them, but if not, I apologize. But I believe that an effective director of schools should listen to the board, should listen to the students, and should listen to the community. Now, when I say listen to the students, that means that there is an embracing of the teachers also, and parents, and all of that. And when I say listen to the board, I also mean the supervisors and the teachers and the bus drivers and the custodians and all that. So when you're listening to the people that you have to do with, that's how you know where the issues are. And so when you have there's always a problem. Always. There's never a day when there isn't one.
Right.
Just what do you spend your time on? The trick is not to get caught up in taking care of the emergency that isn't urgent, or the urgent that isn't emergency, whichever way you want to say it. What I mean by that is that there are some things that just seem to grab all of your time, but they're not really where you need to be spending your time for the biggest buck. But you keep getting focused on those things, and to see that there is a larger problem that if we worked on it, it would solve a lot of the smaller problems.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, Dr. Shannon. My name is Shannon Stout, and I'm District Representative Ford 9.
Did you say Shannon was your first
Shannon,
name?
mm-hmm.
Good
name. You're right. Miss Anita Hale, who's our 4th District Representative, is not able to be with us this evening, so I am going to handle her question as well as my question. So we would like to know about a difficult decision you had to make that affected multiple stakeholders. And how did you ensure that that decision was fair and impartial?
Well, we stopped a program that we had. Nothing, I'm not going to get into what it was because it's be too easy to identify what's going on, I guess. But we stopped a program that wasn't working well for us, and then having to let that person go, that was not a pleasant decision. It just wasn't generating the student participation we needed it to, and it was a sad thing all around. We obviously, we're a small area, we're a small community. We have a good CT concentration of programs in our area for our size. And the things that we had to let go of were needed, but we just couldn't sustain them anymore. So that had an impact, not pleasant, not something anybody wants to do, but it had to be done. Through years passed, and then we looked at it again, and we were able to bring it back, and it's thriving again, or thriving now. So sometimes you just have to root it up, give the ground some time to cure, and then replant.
Mm-hmm. That's good. And you made those determinations based on the evaluation process of how the program was doing?
Based upon the effective use of taxpayer money, because you can't have a program where only 5 kids are in it. Teachers may not make a lot of money, but you can't justify that. So it was a fiscal, I am, if anything, fiscally good steward. Taxpayer responsibilities are big time to me.
It's important, everybody's paying into the pot that we're spending,
Everybody.
right? We need to make sure that, as you say, they're getting the best bang for their buck out of
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Hello. Question 5, here again from the 5th District. What strategies do you use to build trust and maintain a strong relationship with your staff, parents, community? And could you give an example of where those strategies were effective?
Well, I like to talk to people. I like to see what they think. I like to know where they're coming from. I like to break bread. Let's have a conversation. And once we get to have, I believe that we're far more alike than we are different. And sometimes problems come from misunderstandings of intent. Sometimes problems come from misunderstanding of where you think something's going. And usually we can talk it out. I am a Rule 31 listed family and general civil mediator with the Department of with the Tennessee Supreme Court. And so I believe very much in talking through a problem. And many people who worked with me have said that I was a great boss to work with. You never know when to say that, because I don't like saying that, because I don't pat myself on the back a lot, but I guess the game we're playing today. So anyway, I do genuinely like to know what people think, and the only people that I don't want to be around are those people who will not ever consider an alternative perspective, because not a lot can be done there. And to that end, I have been very successful with working with all my teachers for the most part. I've lost a few along the way, but nobody bats 1,000.
Is there a specific example where having that open dialogue proved to be
Well,
on
and
point?
going back to the dual credit and the industry credentials, so now we've gotten everybody on the page that we need to, and we have more alignment with dual credit than we've ever had. We've got more students taking industry credentials than ever before. For our size, we had a pretty good chance. We start with our freshmen and got that going now, and this next year we're looking to transition into a different set of industry credentials, but everybody is on board. We've got the key players ready to go, and so that all came about through conversation.
Very good. Thank you.
Mr. Matthews.
I'm John Matthews, I'm 7th District. My question goes with foster support, confidence, and pride within the community for the school system through timely information sharing and providing meaningful opportunities to be involved. Can you tell us about a time when you created or enhanced meaningful opportunities for parents, students, or community members to get involved in the decision-making process, and what was the outcome?
Well, again, I like to talk to people. I like to hear what they have to say. I don't, sometimes I feel that, I don't want to bother people, but at the same time, I want to know what you think. What I find, here's where it doesn't work out too well, when people don't want to talk. They don't want to ask the question, they don't want to engage. But when they do want to engage, when they do want to ask the question, we weren't able to pull this off, but one of the things that we wanted to do is start a cosmetology class. We couldn't find anybody to do a cosmetology class. You may have it here, but to do a cosmetology class, you have to be a licensed cosmetologist, and then you have to go back and get the license to be a teaching cosmetologist. Well, couldn't get that second step. Nobody wanted to do it. But I went around and talked to everybody. I went around and talked to all our cosmetology people, all the various things that are going on. Everybody, I never met anybody that didn't like it. So that was, but to me, if you would have said, we need a cosmetology class, I would have laughed at you. I said, oh, come on, get out of here. No, everybody wanted one. So we were determined to do it. We just couldn't find anybody that would I guess, I don't know if they take a pay cut or not. I don't know what it is with what cosmetologists make, but that was an area where we solicited lots of community involvement, lots of participation. The only regret is we could not find the person, and I put out feelers, whomever. I said, can we get somebody? Can we, start them now and get them? And then but it just didn't work out. Did that answer your question, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Cole.
Dr. Shannon, my next question is going to show your experience as a teacher who understands the day-to-day operations of the classroom and has sound knowledge of instruction, curriculum, and educational programs. How does your understanding of classroom management and instructional time influence your approach to district policies that impact teaching and learning on a day-to-day basis?
Well, when your instructional time is the most critical time that we have. We have been employed by you through being elected, we through being hired and through various mechanisms to educate the students. That is our opportunity and privilege to do so. Instructional time is that time when we meet that obligation. So it is the most sacred of all things. So I absolutely believe that it starts with effective relationships between the teacher and the students. If you have an effective, and by the way, all the data shows that the most effective element in any environment is the teacher. So if the teachers feel that they're supported, if the teachers feel that they're coming to a work place that is safe and secure and nurturing for them as well, then they can provide that same thing to their students. That being said, then once they engage with those students and develop those relationships, classroom management goes out the door because you don't need it anymore. It's just a natural byproduct of relationships. Two walk together because they're friends. So when you walk hand in hand with somebody, you usually don't have and even if you do have disagreements, they're not arguments, they're not fights in the sense that we use that. So if we can get our teachers to see the need for good relationships, where we have principals and supervisors and directors of schools and school boards who are helping those teachers see that need for relationship building, where when they come to school, when they come to work, that it doesn't matter what happened in their home, when they come, they're there for the kids. As I told one group, I said, I've had a headache every day since February. I'm not kidding. It's the way sinus works in my head. I've got a headache now. But you come and you do what needs to be done, and you do it with a cheerful attitude, because that's the only thing we really get to decide, how we respond to the environment. And so once we help our teachers see that, the kids will then begin engaging with them. They always will. I've had teachers who could get students to walk through the fiery pits of hell, and I think, man, I wish I had your skills. Okay. Then we've got other teachers, they couldn't get them to find their way out of a wet paper bag. That's regrettable. Did that answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Stout, would you go
Do you
ahead?
mind? Okay. When you typically develop long-term strategies, how do you ensure that the district remains adaptable to changes in policy, which there's a lot of those, especially after the legislative session, right? Technology and educational trends? And the second portion of that is, how do you plan on engaging key stakeholders, including students, parents, staff, and the school board in the process?
Well, I'll start with the second part first because I can remember it. And so I may need you to repeat the first one again.
Okay.
there's not going to be a thing that I do that you're not part of. If the board is not working with the director of schools, then we've got a problem. And so we want you part of all of those decisions. You make the policy, you set the vision, I just enact what you want. So that's going to be how you're taken care of. Any principal and supervisor that's working with me, not for me, but with me, then we're going to be working to enact those policies the best that we can. And where we find opportunities to make enhancements and improvements, we will approach you to consider changing your policy. But at the end of the day, I think that took care of the second part. And then transitioning to the first. At the end of the day, even with some of the stuff that goes on after any legislative session, we're still just educating students. And I don't mean the word just there in a condescending way. I mean, that's really our function. We educate students. That's why we're here. That is our primary responsibility, to provide for the sound educational advancement of our students wherever they are to where we can get them in the span of the school year. So with that being said, even with changes, and there are some changes that are, and I won't specifically point out any unless you want me to, that seem to be just silly, and that we really struggle to try to accommodate those new laws that have been mandated. But still, at the end of the day, we're just educating students, and that hasn't changed. Now, the mechanisms have improved. The instructional strategies for delivery have greatly been enhanced. But as I said earlier to his question, it's really about the relationship that exists between a teacher and her student, and by extension, their parents or guardians. Did that answer your question, ma'am?
Yeah, I think so. Tying that into long-term strategies, because
long-term strategies.
yeah,
okay.
we've got a 5-year plan right now that we revisit every year. We're in the second year of that 5-year plan, and there needs to be little tweaks and modifications with every year. But we've also had a lot of changes in administration and the director and the board members, so we're revisiting it with new people. So kind of tying that long-term strategy into all the changes that are occurring. What kind of outlook do you have on that?
Well, I will be reaching out to whomever and to get as many resources available, but at the end of the day, I'll be working with you to develop those long-term strategies, to be looking at where we need to put and allocate our resources. As I said, there's always problems. I do recall that there are a few buildings that need to have some repairs done to them. There are some, but that's everywhere.
Right.
Okay. So, but I imagine your 5-year strategy would look a lot like our 5-year strategy. You know, you want to improve the technology of your school district, you want to improve the facilities of your school district, you want to improve the security and safety and welfare of your school district. So I mean, they're I don't mean to belittle them, because no, they're not. They are absolutely essential as guideposts, and you need to come back to them every year and see them. But they will remain in those broad categories anyway. And how do we need to, because you probably do what most boards do, you have a 5-year plan, and something came up that was more pressing, that this roof needed to be fixed, and even though this one was going to get fixed, we had to move it to another year. That's just the way you do. So you come back and evaluate it again. And I will bring in expertise of talking with colleagues, my years of experience, and all this to give you as a sounding board on where you think you should allocate your time, resources, and money.
Great. Thank you.
Dr. Shannon, Chris King, District 6. Two-part question. How do you stay informed about federal, state, and local funding changes that can impact the school district?
How do I stay abreast of those? Well, I read the TOS legislative update every year. I try to stay abreast of current lawsuits that are happening. I am just naturally curious about schools and what's going on, so I think that's just a natural extension of what I do already.
Can you name an example of something that you've recently changed, had to deal with on a change?
Well, I think we're all dealing with cell phones. So that's the new one. What do we do with that? So we're all having to do with that. I thought it was very interesting that there was a new law now where the State Board of Education has enhanced subpoena power. I wondered what the impetus of that particular law was. So, yeah, we've got a, well, here's another thing, statewide dual credit's going away. Because, and so when you have statewide dual credit going away, we use that in Benton County, I'm sure you use that here. What are you going to replace that with? So we're having to look at a variety of areas to supplant that with something just as effective. One of the strategies that we're using is we're enhancing our industry credential offerings so that our students have a greater opportunity to get Tier 2 and above industry credentials across the board. That answer your question, sir?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Van Winkle, question 10.
And so this is our 10th and last criterion. It's a respected instructional leader with a strong academic background. And I think this criterion comes from our survey that we did throughout the community. So the question is, what systems or structures have you implemented to ensure instructional consistency and excellence across all schools under your leadership?
Well, when I started as assistant principal in the junior high, we went through and did a comprehensive look at where we were at and where we wanted to be. Our goal at that time, now we're getting a few years away from that, okay? But our goal at that time is that we said that we should be preparing our students to transition to high school with the greatest success rate that they can. Because every time you change a building, there's anxiety. Students don't typically do as well. So the more changes you have, the more blips you have in your data. So we went through and comprehensively redid the way we did our middle school to get so that they were, in essence, serving what the high schools need to work. When I took over the career and technical education building, we hadn't updated the equipment there in a while, and that's not anybody's fault. That's just, it's hard to do. It's expensive. And so I set out on a path of diligent purpose to modernize the equipment. And I'm proud to say that I have done that without ever once having to go back to the director or the school board for additional funds. We had, grant money, but this is long before Innovative School came along and long before ESSER came along. So we were putting in equipment that were needed. We wrote grants where we could. We did what was necessary to get the equipment up to what they were going to see in industry. Now, one of my weaknesses is that I tend to want to get a piece of equipment that's going to perhaps be a little bit more than they needed. Because I keep thinking, well, that kid could see this, could see that, so that's a weakness where I need to drill back to get to just what's essential for a high school kid to get to. But that is engaging with what they need. It's hard to teach machining when you've got a welder that's about as big as that podium there. It's not what they're going to find when they go out into the workforce. So we went about doing that and making sure they had what they needed. Now, I usually had just one teacher in an area, like one automotive teacher, one health science teacher. So again, small district, I'm sure you have multiple. But whenever you look at those, I had to work with each one individually on what their needs were. Make sure that they had the curriculum that they needed, to make sure that they had the resources that they needed. So we did all of that without ever having to ask for additional funds. We did all of that without ever having to have an increase in our budget, other than the normal salary increases and things that came that way. And we did all of that just through the fact that we were trying to be good stewards and effective educational leaders, because, well, you just make it work. There's no joke in education. We've done so much for so long with so little, but now everybody thinks we can do everything with nothing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We've got some time to go through some more questions. Ms. Stahl, if you'd like to ask a second question there.
All right. What steps will you take to maintain open lines of communication with staff and community, especially in times of crisis or rapid change?
Well, dealing with crisis and rapid change, I think transparency is the greatest advocate that you can have. It's the, if the community and stakeholders know that you are going to tell them. So if we have, that's the policy that our director's taken, and I absolutely support him. And in fact, I run the notification system in Denton County, so I'm sure you've got something similar here. We will make sure that those are maintained or broadened if you don't have them, and that whatever we have, it's going out. People know it. We should have nothing to hide. And as far as maintaining open lines of communication, we should be talking, and when I say we, I mean you and I, the board. We should be talking regularly. And I plan on meeting with, on a very frequent basis with all of our supervisors and principals and assistant principals, and then certainly taking time to go to each school and talk with the teachers to let them have an opportunity to meet with me in private and confidence to go over the things that they have that are problematic for them. Or they may just want to talk about how great their job is. That may be it too. And that'd be wonderful if it were. So that, hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Van Winkle?
So my next question would be, how do you ensure transparency and clarity when communicating complex or challenging issues to parents, staff, and the wider community?
What a great question. What a great question. I like to pride myself on being, maybe not verbally, but when I am writing, I try to be an effective communicator. And so my strategy has always been that unless it just absolutely has to go out right then, that I will craft it and shop it around. And I used to have one back in the day when I did things, I asked it to the person who was the least offensive person I could find. Never, and I say, what do you think about this? What do you think this says? Do you think I was too harsh? And so that's how I try to do that, shop it around. Now, if I can't, then I do rely on AI technology to help me sound more friendly sometimes than I come off. So I do use those skills that are available to everybody. But I absolutely believe that unless we're telling people what we're doing, they're not going to know what we're doing, but we'll assume they do, and it is typically bad. Because people, for whatever reason today, believe everything is worse than it really is. And I wish society were not that way, but gosh, Facebook, Snapchat, all those things probably are not helping us as a society as a whole.
Thank you.
Okay, can you share an example of time when you recognized the need for significant change in a school district, and how did you identify that change was necessary?
Well, when we alleviated the problem of having, it just wasn't working, that was an easy one to see. I'm a good one for let's run it for a year and see what happens, and then come back and talk about it. And if it didn't work the way we wanted it to, then drop it, change it, modify it. So I have no trouble doing that, and I do that with my life. I look at the things that work for me and change them all the time, because I strive to be, I am a sinner, but I strive to be the best version of me I can be.
There you go.
I don't always get it right, but I do try to be better. And I do that with my work too. I said, well, how can we make this better? And every time, any colleague I've ever dealt with, I always say to them, I said, now next year when we come back and let's look at this again, maybe we could do this, this, and this. And we take notes. And I've got a colleague that I just love working with, and she does a great job because she's a far better note taker than I am. And we'll come back and she'll remind me and say, well, we talked about this. And, oh, yeah, so let's do it this way. And so we tweak and change all the time, because you never get it right, because there's no right. It's just simply what you did.
Right. Good, thank you.
Do one more? All righty. Okay, Dr. Shannon, can you think of a problem that was brought to you recently and what that problem was and how you handled it?
Okay. Here's an example of outside of the box thinking. I don't know about you, but sometimes we have trouble finding teachers. And we didn't really have everything we needed, and we needed to do some shifting around to get a particular endorsement to a particular area. This is middle school. And there's also a thing about computer science. And you have to teach computer science starting with your, whatever your middle, I don't know where y'all start because you're K-8, that'd be an interesting question. But since we start in 6th grade, by the time they get to the 8th grade, sometime between 6th and 8th grade, they have to have 9 weeks of computer science class. And we've implemented it in our middle schools to do in the 7th grade. So everybody does 7th grade. So the outside of the box thinking is that the computer science, the person who was endorsed to do computer science was the person who had the right endorsement to do what was needed. But there is no waiver for computer science. You can't get a waiver. So a potential solution that I came up with is that we could take the hit for 1 year and not teach computer science and move it to the 8th grade and then pick those kids up who would have been in the 7th grade and take that year where we could move that person with the endorsement where they needed to be and then pick up with computer science in the 8th grade. So we'd shift our focus from the 7th grade to the 8th grade because we had a bye year. So that was some outside of the box thinking. Luckily it worked out where they didn't have to do that, but that was a solution that would have met the need to take care of it. And it also shows, it demonstrates that, you're not rigid thinking. It's got to be so. No, it doesn't have to be. You just have to get it done before the 8th grade's over for us.
Okay, thank you.
Help us understand, how do you foster a culture of open dialogue and then the collaboration among the staff and admin to kind of prevent those conflicts that may arise from escalating? And really focus on the nuts and the bolts, like how do you make that happen?
I talk to people. I absolutely talk to people. I believe that if we can see things from different perspectives, that we're all enhanced as human beings. I genuinely believe that. And so sometimes when I have had teachers come in and they've had problems with other teachers or whatever, I say, well, have you thought about it from their perspective? Or when we have teachers who've had problems with students, one of the first questions I'd ask is, do you know the student's history? What is it? Because it may be that student was kept up all night because one of their parents was arrested for drug abuse and they were running a meth lab and they didn't have any sleep. So do we know where they're coming from? So looking at it from the other person's perspective is integral to any sort of growth as an individual and any sort of bonding as a group.
Thank you.
Mr. Matthews.
How will you ensure that the community stays informed about both the successes and challenges in the school system in a timely and transparent manner?
Well, one of the things, I hate social media, but if the dog's there, we might as well run with it. So we would increase our, and I'm sure you do a great job, I have no doubt. But we would make sure that if we're doing a great job, we'll continue doing a great job, and if we're not, then we're going to step up the game. Because I know, I've never worked a day in this place, but I know teachers, I know people who put themselves up to be school board members, that you have the best interests of these kids at heart. Rarely have I ever met somebody that I thought, you should never have come into this profession. That's rare. Across the board, across the state, across my career. However, when we're looking at putting out that social media, there's far more good things going on here than bad things, by a long shot. And since that is true, let's sell it. Sell's the wrong word because it has a connotation of trying to be a sham artist or a snake oil salesman. That's not what I mean. But I mean you promoting your strengths. You tell people, I don't do a good job of that myself, but you enable people to be their own cheerleaders, to say the good things that are going on. I love the posters you got out there, the pictures of all your people of the year for 24-25. Great idea. I'm taking that back. I'm sticking it. So when we go back, I'm going to say, we need to do that. We need to have that up. Ours is a smaller district, so we can have better pictures. Okay? But I'm going to steal that when I get back. But that's how you do it. And when it comes to the bad things, well, you need to let people know about emergencies when they're happening. You need to let them know about outcomes when they're over. But now I don't know that I want to put a newsletter out about how bad a third grade went or whatever. But we do need to have that engagement with the community where they can come in and ask me any question. And if it's not illegal, unethical, or immoral, I'm going to talk to them about it. There are some things I can't talk to them about because it'd be illegal, it'd be unethical. However, outside of those two or those three parameters, whatever you want to talk about. And, let's go eat lunch, my treat. Tell me what you think. And that goes for y'all too. Let's go eat lunch. Tell me what you think.
See?
How do you ensure that the instructional practice and curriculum in the district meet the diverse needs of students and align with educational standards?
Well, the state of Tennessee has kind of said a lot of that for us, but so I guess the biggest part of that question that we would have responsibility for is making sure that we appropriately utilize the textbook money we get and use it to buy the best curriculum that we can because, it has to last us a long time. That means that we've got to have actively engaged supervisors. We've got to have actively engaged teachers who are vetting this material to make sure it's what we need and to try to do what's very difficult to do, to go back to that 5-year plan and look down the road because, well, nobody saw COVID. Nobody saw the fact that we would be having school with Zoom conferences. But we're there now. We can do it now. So, and seeing that, we just make sure that our supervisors are monitoring our teachers appropriately and that hopefully they can have time to actually be in the classroom to provide instructional support so that they are helping them to grow and to be nurtured, and that our teachers have appropriate mentors that they can go to and have time which they can assess and look at common planning times where it's possible, look at areas where they can interface with others to step up, to step down, to see where they need to be, where they've come from, so these communications are both lateral and vertical, and to engage with what we're using. Because, I don't know about y'all, but, our latest round of books for English, math, and science, that was a costly dog right there. Mm-hmm. So we need to make sure we're getting the use of our money, and that means we're implementing it. Now, the state's got some, what they call it, high quality or high accountability, I forget, but there's always new names with the state, but they want to make sure that we have high quality instructional material, Well, we got to be sure we're using that too. But here's the other thing. It can't just be that curriculum. You can't just have the curriculum do it itself, because it won't. It can't do it. I don't care what you've got to have that relationship. You've got to have that teacher who is a grade level content area specialist, that they know their content. They know what's needed. If you're talking to a 7th grade math teacher, that 7th grade math teacher knows 7th grade math. That 7th grade math teacher knows what 6th grade math is and what 8th grade math is in terms of what they should have when they're coming up and what they need when they're going forward. And they need to know that. Teaching's hard. It is hard. Yep. People think it's just off in the summer and we're just out laying on the beach, but that ain't it. I don't know if that was ever it, but it sure ain't it now. And so we've got to make sure that we are engaging with what we've got to do, because you can't turn around and ask these good people in Cumberland County here to give you another however many millions you spent on your textbook. It's about a lot of it. doesn't come that way. We've got to get it right and then make sure we're using it. But that relationship and engaging that material with the students, that's the key. That's the success.
Thank you.
Dr. Shannon, let you ask us some questions now. Do you have any?
I do have a question for you. Actually, it's not a question. I do want to, whatever the outcome of this vote is, whenever you have it, I am perfectly happy with whatever happens. And I want to thank each and every one of you for giving me a wonderful interview, for giving me a great chance to drive up here. I got to listen to a good book on the way up here. I'm going to listen to another good book on the way back. And I might even go by Buc-ee's. I'm not sure.
You gotta go by Buc-ee's.
But I truly
It's a thing now.
Yeah, you gotta go, you gotta go. I want to say this from the bottom of my heart, and I'm not trying to sway a vote, because I don't care. I do care, but I don't care. It's not my goal. I'm being genuine and honest. Thank you for running for office. This is what makes our democracy work. People who get a lot of flack. I know you're paid well, so that's to be appreciated for what you do. And thank you for that. Thank you for giving me a great interview. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and see this lovely old building.
Yeah.
It is so great, isn't it?
Yes.
I drove past it. I went on down and looked at the Jets, and I didn't get a chance to go see Panther Country, but I did go see the Jets, and as I was driving by, I said, this has got to be the longest central office I have ever seen. So it's wonderful. So anyway, thank you for the time and for having me. It's been a genuine pleasure for everybody that I met today, including the young lady from the Chronicle.
Jessica.
Who was entertained me when I was sitting there, and we had a great conversation. She's got some grandparents that live in Dixon, which is close to me. So, and she drove there last night and came back. Isn't that nice? Just to be here with us today. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Shannon.
Anything else?
I think that's all. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Now, I'm assuming I'm free to go.
Yes, sir.
You're free to
Free to
go.
roam
Here
about
I
the
come.
building.
Listen to that book and enjoy your ride home.
Take care, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you for all coming out and being here.
Take a quick recess and come right her to show back up in here. I'll go over what we're going to do. We've got pretty much 1 hour set for this. Hopefully, we're going to go through the same exact questions that we just asked. Same order, same way. Generally, 3 minutes per answer. You don't have to use the whole time. If you do, that's fine. If you don't, then we'll go to the next question. I'll wait on Miss Stahl. She'll be in here in just a minute. Try to give you a quiet time to get nervous here. We do appreciate you applying for the position too. Got our ground rules. On the first question, it's going to tie into a similar question that is giving you time to introduce yourself. And we'll have about 3 minutes for that. When we get to the end, we'll give you time to ask us questions and make a wrap-up summary if you want to.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll get started with question 1.
Dr. Farley, we've read your resume. We know some things about you. Is there anything that you'd like to tell us that was not included in the resume?
No. I didn't think that was working at first.
So if you would, even though it's kind of awkward, you know us, we know you, tell the people that are listening something about you.
So thank you all for the opportunity that you have given me to lead Cumberland County Schools. Approximately 2 months ago, I stood before you telling you that I was consistent, determined, industrious, and goal-oriented. I think in our brief time together, you could say that you have seen these qualities in me and my work. Consistency through my communication with you all, with Farley's follow-throughs every Monday. Determination in our time together working on the budget. We set meetings, came together, discussed and pondered, and arrived at a budget. A goal of mine in the brief period of time that I was in the position was to leave it better than I found it. I feel I was able to accomplish a small slice of this through the sense of calm and stability I brought. Numerous employees have thanked me for less tension that was felt. Employees know that I have been here and that I will continue to be here. I can say that Cumberland County Schools closed the 24-25 school year by meeting all state requirements and completing them on time. I was able to visit every school and talk to employees. I attended numerous extracurricular activities. Our students are doing wonderful things, and it's because of our amazing people. All of our amazing people. Again, I thank you for the opportunity that you gave me to serve.
Second question, Ms. Stahl.
What will you do to create an atmosphere in the schools that will lead to educational excellence for all students?
Well, we are getting to adopt new science textbooks, and when I met earlier today with the community and the teachers and staff and the principals and supervisors, I looked at that as an opportunity and an obstacle because, with new science books now, that will give us our third new textbook, relatively new, that has been adopted under the Tennessee guidance of the textbooks cover 100% of the standards. So we have those resources. Now we have to get our people ready, and we have to make sure that we have clear expectations as to what we expect of our teachers in the line of rigor and what an effective lesson looks like. And we need to make sure that we are teaching every moment that we can with all of the requirements that we have. And that would be set forth by me as the instructional leader for this district when I have outcome meetings with the principals and supervisors.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Davis.
Dr. Farley, what do you consider to be your major strengths that you would bring to this position?
My relationships, without a doubt, is probably my strongest. I think most people respect me. Sometimes when you are in a leadership role, not everybody's going to like you. Sometimes that's hard to accept, just the human side of that, because you have to make difficult decisions sometimes, and you have to do things that are not always fun and easy. But I think relationships is a strong piece. I know most of the employees, know several of them's names. So that's one piece. Organization. I think most of the principals and supervisors that are sitting behind me would say that, yeah, I could probably organize anything to a fault. Community. Not everybody, obviously, in Cumberland County knows me, but I would gladly serve as CC Schools Ambassador and be at everything I could promoting you all and our school system and the great things that's going on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, can you share an example of a time when a staff member or community member proposed an idea you initially disagreed with, but later embraced after listening to their perspective?
In 2018, we were 12 years out from adopting a reading language arts textbook. A colleague that worked with me very closely came to me and proposed the idea of the school system participating in the LIFT network. That stands for Leading Innovation for Tennessee. Well, I just really wasn't excited about that. I didn't know what that would entail for our teachers or for principals for that matter. She was pretty passionate about it, so I went ahead and agreed to do that. And through that network, our schools and our English language arts teachers especially was able to get resources that was not available to us for 2 more years because of the textbooks. So that was huge. And I saw that she was correct. And that also gave me more knowledge of what an appropriate, rigorous English language arts classroom and lesson should look like. So yes, I was reluctant. Not only did I benefit from it, but our teachers was able to benefit from it, which is the main thing.
Thank you.
Criterion 2, how do you balance sharing the successes of the school district while also highlighting areas where improvement is needed? And can you give an example of when you've done this?
So everybody likes to hear about successes. You know, what we're doing good, that's great. So obviously, if you're going to be straightforward in your presentation, start with a success, give the bad news, end with a success. But when you're giving those challenges, I think it's important not only to give those challenges, but, you know, we have to look at, okay, so this is where we are. We have to arrive at why we're there. And at this point, it is what it is. There's no need to lay the blame. Let's all own it. Let's all come together, figure out how we're going to fix it, share that with everybody that needs to know, and then once we have that plan, follow through with that and make sure that we're seeing what we said we were going to see. Then end on, hey, you know, we also did this well as well. Yeah, I've done that. When I present the standardized test scores at board meetings, that's usually an example of what I would do. We do have a few successes, but sometimes we have more areas to focus on to improve in. You're welcome.
Hello, Dr. Farley.
Hello.
So, what process do you use to determine whether a change is truly necessary for the school or the district? And how do you gather input and make decisions?
Well, obviously, if you have data and numbers, that is absolutely the best. It's very difficult to argue with numbers, as we all know. If you don't have that, I think your leader has to know your organization. You have to know the people. Because if you know the people and you have a relationship with them, they may come to you and say, this isn't working, we've got to change it. But if no one's comfortable enough to do that, if you know your people, you can read them and read their emotions and go from there to make the change. I would really want to include them in their input on how to make the change happen and what they think is best. And then after that decision is made, let's step back from this and let's take a day or two and see and weigh out the pros and cons and see what's going to be best and how to proceed. But I think that input from the stakeholders is huge, because if they help to fix it, they're going to be more invested.
That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tell us about a difficult decision that you had to make that affected multiple stakeholders, and how did you ensure that your decision was fair and impartial?
Well, as an educational leader, anytime that you're dealing with staffing, whether that's hiring or dismissing, that's going to affect multiple stakeholders. And I think what you have to do is you have to be sure that you have all of the facts and data that you need, and that would ensure that you are fair and impartial, I think is what you said.
Mm-hmm. You've had to deal with some changes in staffing recently, haven't you?
Just a few, yes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kind of parlaying into that theme, what strategies do you use to build trust and then maintain the strong relationships essentially with those stakeholders? And can you provide us with a specific example of where those strategies were effective?
I think you have to be visible, and I think you have to be responsive, consistent, and timely. If you are visible and people know who you are, they're probably going to feel like they can approach you and let you know a concern or issue that they're having. And then once you're made aware, you have to be responsive. I shoot for 24 hours. If something's brought to my attention, I try to get back to the individual within 24 hours. I don't always accomplish that, but I give it my all. I think you have to be consistent, not only in your dealings individually, but make sure that you are consistent in handling all of the topics and issues that are brought to you. And again, timely, making sure that you follow through and follow up with these individuals. And I can give you a very specific example. You and I were just discussing it out in the hallway. So the day after I was named interim, I received a telephone call regarding Stone Memorial Football Field and the progress on that. I really hadn't been involved in that plan and the situation and didn't know where we were. So I reached out to Ms. Bray to see where we were in the process, see what the process was. Within probably an hour, I called the individual back to let them know where we were. At that point, we were having to wait for the bids to come through, which those were opened, I do believe, May 15th. After the bids were opened, that was on a Friday, I do believe, I did call that individual back and let them know the bids were open today, this is the person who got it. But before I called the parent back, I called the individual that was awarded the bid. I wanted to know his timeline. Where did he think he would be? How long did he think it would take? He got back to me, and I reported that to you all in a Farley's follow-through the following Monday as well. So then we got ready for the work session on Thursday. I was told he would start the second to third week in June. So last week being the second week in June, before we came to our work session, I called the individual back, asked him where he was. I reported that out to you all, told you what all we had accomplished, where we were. And today, I followed through again with that parent to let them know where we were. So I think in my dealings with that situation, you could see my responsiveness and my timely and consistency.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you tell us about a time when you created or enhanced meaningful opportunities for parents, students, and community members to get involved in the decision-making process, and what was the outcome?
So every year, the school district has to submit an improvement plan. So that has goals. Typically, they're academic goals, math, ELA, college career readiness. Me personally, I'm a firm believer in 3 goals, because along with those goals, you include action steps and strategies and the individual that's going to be responsible for carrying these goals out. So 2 years ago, we worked together with our stakeholders, which is community and parents and teachers, on our district improvement plan. Well, they were just astonished at our chronic absentee rate. Some of the parents were there, they make sure their kids goes to school every day, and they couldn't understand that kids didn't. So, we explained the process, and sometimes if kids are sick, even though we get the excuses, they're still considered chronic absent. So this group was really passionate about that chronic absentee. So we came together as supervisors in developing our plan. And from that meeting and their passion, we added chronic absentee as a 4th goal to our district improvement plan. That has enabled us to put more of a focus on that, because now we have goals, we have action steps, we know what individuals are responsible for what. We haven't received as much as we would like in a decrease in our chronic absentee, but we have seen a small decrease in that.
Dr. Farley, how does your understanding of classroom management and instructional time influence your approach to district policies that impact teaching and learning on a day-to-day basis?
The educational demands placed on our schools, our principals, and our teachers are unreal. Not only are we expected to teach the standards, in the elementary setting, we are also required to teach or to provide 40 minutes every day of physical activity. We also address character education and social emotional learning. When you put all of that together and you think this through, we have each child roughly from arrival to departure for 8 hours a day, 6 hours of instruction. We cannot afford to waste a single minute with a single child. We have to ensure that they are engaged meaningfully every day. You're welcome.
You were just talking about some long-term strategies, short-term and long-term strategies, and we've got our 5-year long-term strategy goals that we're working towards. So when you're developing your long-term strategies, how do you ensure that the district remains adaptable to the changes that we have that occur in policy and technology and educational trends? And how do you plan to engage stakeholders, including students, parents, staff, and the school board in the process?
with any plan, be it a strategic 5-year plan, the district improvement plan that I have mentioned, it has to be a living document. You have to follow through. You have to revisit it frequently, check your status, check your progress. If you do that, you're going to ensure that you're going to be adaptable with policy changes and trends. To involve stakeholders, you would, if it's your strategic plan, for instance, for each area, the academics, the athletics, the CTE, the operations, resources, we would need to ensure that we have a parent, we have a student, we have a teacher, we have a board member, we have a supervisor. We have all of those individuals working on each component of that plan. Now, you know, when you get that many people together, it's really difficult, but we would have to be flexible, you know, maybe think outside the box as to when and how we're going to meet. You know, 3 o'clock every day may be great for some, but it might not be best for all. And we would need to definitely be accommodating and try to get participation from all stakeholders and be flexible in those times.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think I have the next question, Dr. Farley. What systems or structures have you implemented to ensure instructional consistency and excellence across all schools under your leadership?
I would assume you're talking about not just the 53 days that I've been in place. When I served as the pre-K through 8 supervisor, I was able to get out into the schools and visit with the principals and try to find out what was best for them and their needs. You know, I think being there for them is important. I've never really been in a place to say, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it. You know, as pre-K through 8 supervisor, I had a supervisor that was over me that reported directly to the director. As chief academic officer, I was still under the director of schools. But if I am chosen as the director, I have a transition plan I'd like to share with you all. Within the first 30 days, I would like to meet with each principal and develop outcomes and set goals for their schools. And at that time, I think we would need to look at some things. We've talked before about 3rd grade and our proficiency rates. I think establishing some priorities that every 3rd grade would have to meet would definitely get us that consistency and hopefully help us to get that proficiency up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Dr. Farley. Tell us how you stay informed about federal, state, and local funding changes that can impact the school district.
So the Tennessee Department of Education contributes multiple newsletters. Some they put on a weekly basis, some are on a monthly basis. I try to read all of those, but I don't read them immediately. I wait till I can read them, digest them, and think through what they're saying. I also think that being involved in professional organizations and attending meetings is very, very helpful. Me personally, I like to read, so trying to stay abreast when I hear about something that's coming up or a publication, or if you all share something with me, I try to read that and digest that as well.
Okay, second part of that question is, provide another example of when you successfully navigated the changes, such as the 30 whatever new laws that came out.
Well, I don't know if, number one, I don't know if this will answer what you're saying or if it would qualify as a successful change, but it is a change. So currently, as you all know, we're under TISA funding for our school system. Well, in 1999, when I began my teaching career, we were under the Basic Education Program, or BEP. So that funding focused on itemized resources, whereas now with TISA, we have a per student basis. So, getting used to the changes and the recommendations, requirements that come with both of those plans. I have dealt with that. You're welcome.
We'll go for round 2 now. Ms. Stahl?
What steps will you take to maintain open lines of communication with staff and the community, especially in the times of crisis and rapid change?
I have a proposed communication plan. I would publish monthly in the Crossville Chronicle a newsletter, and it would be from the desk of the director, letting the community know of happenings in schools. With the employees, I would send them an email quarterly letting them know. But I have, in my brief tenure, I have and would continue to work with local law enforcement and with emergency management to send out information quickly and when we need to. We currently use Facebook, our website, and X, and we would continue to use those means as well. For the 25-26 school year, we will be going to a communication platform called Parent Square. And that allows us to use multiple modes of communication, cell phone, text message, email, and a phone call. And it also allows us to do that in multiple languages and dialects.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the next question is, how do you ensure transparency and clarity when communicating complex or challenging issues to parents, staff, and the wider community?
I think that communication has to go out in various forms. Sometimes it's best if it's written, sometimes it's a text, sometimes it's a phone call, email. Not all parents have emails, not all parts of our county have reliable internet access. So I think we have to use multiple methods to get that out to make sure that all individuals have access. I think it needs to be written clearly where everybody can understand. I will admit educators typically can be the world's worst people to use those $10 words, so it needs to be clear and easy to understand. And if we need to get it out in multiple languages and dialects, I think that would need to be done, and it needs to be gotten out as quickly as we can get it out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, has the wisdom to know when change is necessary and the ability and determination to generate such change, even in the face of opposition. Can you share an example of a time when you recognized the need for significant change in a school or district? How did you identify that change was necessary?
Well, we all know that we've struggled to find teachers. You've heard that in your time on the board. Not only have we struggled to find teachers, but we've also struggled to find, at times, principal and assistant principal candidates. So in looking back, the last couple of years, our leadership meetings with principals and assistant principals have kind of been done different ways. Not sure that they were always effective. So in looking at that, and in looking at a decline in the number, period, of candidates, let alone qualified candidates for assistant principal and principal positions, I thought it was best to revise and figure out a leadership program for the school system. So this year, we changed our assistant principal meetings. They had a format. And I can share that here in a little bit, or I can share it now, either one. But we changed our assistant principal meetings, and we also revised our aspiring admin academies. In order to take this district forward, we have to prepare leaders to be ready to step in and lead us and to continue our momentum.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Can you think of a problem, just one, because you can probably think of many, but can you think of a problem that was brought to you recently and what that problem was and how you handled it?
Absolutely. So during standardized testing, I was the testing coordinator. I had an appointment that day out of town. I was getting ready to back out of my garage when I received a call from a principal, and they were doing online testing, and they lost the internet.
Oh, God.
Now, we had to maintain testing integrity, and what that meant was we had to keep those students quiet and together until this issue was resolved. So I had to report this incident to TDOE. I worked with a principal at that time. We came up with a plan, you know, and you think, okay, it's just like when your lights flicker at home. Okay, this is going to be brief. Okay, so 3 hours later, after these students, and when I say these students, I'm saying 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, so you're looking 80, 90 kids, had eaten lunch in their classroom with their Chromebooks under their desk. They had gone to the restroom one at a time. The internet came back. Someone had spliced a cable and they were able to restore our internet. The school, the teachers, the principal, the testing coordinator did an amazing job. They maintained that security and that integrity of the test. We were able to complete the test with no issues. So what I did in that process, you know, several times I was on the phone with TDOE. When I arrived at my appointment, I'm like, look, sorry, I've got something going on. I'm going to have to take my phone calls. So I was on the phone with TDOE. I was on the phone with the school. They were giving me updates. So can our kids do this? Can we do this? So I took the calls. We arrived at a plan. The first thing I did when they told me, I thought, oh, it's something minor. So we had a school that wasn't testing. I sent the technology tech from that school to that school. Never had been there, to my knowledge, to work with kids, but sent that tech, or the teachers either, sent that tech. So provided the support, followed through, developed a plan, and then at the end of the day, I followed through with TDOE, I followed through with the school, I followed through with the administrator, but here's the most important piece. I followed through with the kids. Later on, when they were given their reward day for staying quiet for 3 hours and getting to go to the bathroom one at a time, I provided them extra refreshments when they got their day out. So we had a big old cake, and we had frozen pops, and we had flavored water.
Thank you. That's a good example.
You're welcome. Real life.
Real life. Happens every day, right?
Absolutely.
Mr. Decker.
Moving right along, how do you foster a culture of open dialogue with, or in collaboration amongst your staff and the administrators to kind of prevent those conflicts that could potentially arise?
Would you care to repeat that? I'm sorry.
Sure. How do you foster a culture of open dialogue in collaboration among your staff to prevent the potential conflicts from escalating?
The most important and best example, I think, would be to lead by example. If I want a principal or a teacher to be open to a teacher or a parent, I feel that I have to be open and communicate. If the need be and there was conflict, I would step in, you know, to try to make peace between the parties. I really can't see that happening because most of the time our people here handle their own.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Matthews.
How will you ensure that the community stays informed about both successes and challenges of the school system in a timely and transparent manner?
So, as I said earlier, I have a communication plan where I would meet with, or I would put an article in the newspaper. I would also email our CCBOE and let them know. We would use the Parent Square communication, as I said, multiple modes in multiple languages and dialect. Here in a minute, you'll see my transition plan. And I would also want to get out and be in the schools myself and share things when that need arises.
Mr. Cole.
How do you ensure that the instructional practices and curriculum in the district meet the diverse needs of students and align with the educational standards?
So as I stated earlier, when we were talking about our recently adopted textbooks, and when I say recently, that's, within the last 6 years. Since that time, the State Department has placed the requirement that in order to be adopted, 100% of the academic standards for that subject has to be covered in that textbook, or it's not even put on there for it to be adopted. So the standards are there. It's just us and making sure that we follow through. Can you repeat that?
How do you ensure that the instructional practices and curriculum in the district meet the diverse needs of students and align with the educational standards?
I don't know that here recently we've done a really good job of meeting the needs of diverse learners. We have reached out recently with our core office, and they are starting and working on an initiative called Acceleration for All. And through that allows school districts to develop a plan to reach those learners with the exceptionalities. So we would need to come together as a district, and that would be supervisors and principals, figure out our plan, what that's going to look like, make sure we share that with all that need to be aware of the expectations, and then follow through and see if we see that going on in our classrooms. You're welcome.
Okay, now, Dr. Farley, we're going to ask you to ask us any questions you have and make a closing presentation.
May I approach you all and give you something?
Limited to 30 minutes. Limited to 30 minutes.
I think I can make it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love pink.
So if you look at the first page, this tells you aptitudes that I bring to the job as director. I have extensive experience, vast knowledge, strategic planning, leadership development, and a fierce work ethic. I'm not going to read these to you. It would take me past my 30 minutes.
Timer started, by the way.
Oh, did you start it already? Okay. So the next page is what you all could expect from me as a director of schools. Communication. You would receive a weekly email every Monday morning at 8 a.m. called Farley's Follow-Through. You would get an immediate text or email in emergency or need-to-know situations. You'd probably get a text, but just in case, an email. Parents and community, as I have stated, monthly via the Crossville Chronicle, a newsletter from the desk of the director, Facebook posts and videos, and a staff email quarterly letting them know of happenings in the school. I would be and have been consistent in my dealings, transparent. This has been brought up as well. Responsiveness, again, there's immediate when possible or within 24 hours. I would serve as a Cumberland County School Ambassador. I would be at county commission meetings. I would be at the orchestra performances. I would be at the TICA meetings. I would be at school events. And work ethic. You're probably tired of hearing that, but that's something that my parents instilled in me, and I take that very serious. So this has been shared with the community. I shared it with the teachers and staff, and I shared it with the principals and supervisors. These are what I see as opportunities and obstacles for Cumberland County Schools for the next school year. If you would look, you would see several things appear on both lists. The new science textbooks, that's so exciting. We know that they're going to cover the standards. We've got to prepare our teachers. We know we're going to have a day or a half a day to train them. We know that that's not going to be until close till school starts. Those textbooks, for the most part, have been ordered. I think finishing up and working on finishing touches today. Third grade is an opportunity and an obstacle. And benchmarks. The opportunities there is to give teacher input, to get their knowledges and their strategies. But an obstacle is it's got to align, and we have to analyze it, and we have to make sure that it's truly predictive to let us know where we're going to be at in December and where we're going to be at in March before we get that final autopsy that's done called TCAP. Accomplishments as interim director, collaborated and communicated with you all. You know, we had several budget meetings. And we've had a few work sessions. Again, you've got the Farley follow-through every week. Let you know some other things, some hiring decisions that's been made. I think we had a bus bump one time that I made you aware of. We had, shockingly enough, in May, we had a 2-hour school delay due to weather. Who would have thought that? The school budget has been an accomplishment. Personnel have addressed hiring, non-renewal, and discipline of school personnel in preparation for the 25-26 school year. Stability. I concluded the school year with a sense of cohesion for school personnel, students, and family. And again, the Cumberland County Schools Ambassador. So here are some proposed ideas, if I am given this job, that I would do for the 25-26 school year. We had this a few years ago, but I would like to bring back the Parent Advisory Council, the Student Advisory Council. This would be beneficial to TICA as well as for some of the projects they're doing. They need student input, so this would probably be high school and middle school students. Also today, as a result of my teacher and staff meeting, a classified advisory council was brought up too, and that would definitely be something that I would want to do. We also have a teacher advisory council that I would like to continue to establish. Begin budget preparations for the 26-27 school year in August. I know in the work session you guys said July, but if you give me the opportunity to do this job, please give me a month to get school started before we start working on the budget. Please. To continue to revise monthly assistant principal meetings and the Aspiring Administrator Academy to develop school leaders, working on the agenda based on feedback given from both of those groups. Collaborate with principals to develop a plan for third grade to increase proficiency in ELA. Continue to visit schools, be available to all to increase morale and build a positive culture, increasing job satisfaction, which will positively affect our students' environment and learning. I think that's huge. Next, you will see a transition plan, what I would hope to accomplish the first 30, 60, 90, and 120 days of school. This is a little bit of a snapback, but hold a meet and greet the first week in July on the courthouse lawn.
That's good.
Hold Outlook meetings. These meetings would be with supervisors, principals, and central office staff, and that would be within the first 30 days. 60 days, we would have our convocation, meet with school administrators to develop yearly goals. What do they hope to accomplish for the 25-26 school year in their building? And these don't have to be solely academic. Visit every school, attend a faculty meeting. I would want to participate in back to school, meet your teacher open house at as many schools as possible. Each school calls it something different, but I would like to be at as many as I can. And also within that time, I would like to publish an organizational chart. Within the first 90 days, meet every school employee, and I have them all listed there. Begin staff temperature checks. Anytime I have gone into a new leadership role, this is what I've tried to do, reach out to teachers and staff and find what's going well, what's not going well. And that would be in your school and your district. And that way you can, get a pulse, and hopefully that would help also in building morale. Within the first 120 days, I want to spend 1 day in every school. By that time, I would have completed 1 round of communication with every stakeholder group. And I would also meet with the school administrators to check the progress and status of the yearly goals that we developed in the first 60 days. So next is leadership development. So you've heard me talk of these. I have this. I didn't print you all 95 copies. I thought I would save just 1 tree or 2. But this includes, and I'll be happy to leave it, share it, whatever you need me to do. This includes the activities and events from our assistant principal meetings, as well as our aspiring administrator meetings. Both of those groups met once a month. The assistant principals, I think we started in August. The aspiring admin, we started in September. We met monthly. The format for those meetings was very similar. We did a book study. Assistant principals was the book called Get Better Faster. And with the aspiring admin, it was What Great Principals Do Differently. We had topics that were pertinent to either assistant principals or to aspiring admins, and then we had a scenario portion in each group. The individuals would look and think about the issue themselves, and then they would get together with a group and collaborate. Assistant principals was a little bit different from aspiring admins because they're at different places in their career. An assistant principal has to begin thinking as a principal, and they have to ground their thinking in policies. So each one of their scenarios, they had to list the CCBOE policies that it pertained to. So if you will humor me just a second, I will tell you one scenario. This was the assistant principal, and this was September. Maddie, a junior, continually violates dress code. She may wear skirts too short, pajama pants, or inappropriate shirts. Maddie's pretty slick and will be in dress code at one time, and the next time she will not. It is the 6th week of school, and she already has 3 dress code violations. As an administrator, how would you address this habitual behavior? So that was for the assistant principals. The aspiring admin wasn't as bad. This is February. This is kind of interesting. And I used weird names so I would not infringe upon anyone. Mr. Black, a teacher in your building, apparently attended a bachelor party this past weekend. Pictures of him on a bar with a topless woman have shown up on Facebook. How would you address this with Mr. Black?
Names have been changed.
Now that we get everybody back together. So I was able to use this information when I presented at the Prospective Superintendent's Academy. That was my problem of practice because it's a real problem, not having leaders. And I was really honored when the retired superintendent that I presented to, who works with districts, asked if he could use my stuff to share with his people. But next, you can see we surveyed the assistant principals on what they felt was most beneficial, and we surveyed the aspiring admins as well on what portion of the meetings that they felt was most beneficial and what they thought needed to be changed. So when we started the school year last year, at the beginning in August, we had the agenda set for the assistant principals, and we had that for aspiring admin. For assistant principals, that's not going to be set in August because I want to get their input, because that's what they suggested, getting their input and seeing what they thought that they needed. So may not be able to, whip it all together and organize it like I would want to, but if that's necessary and it best fits their needs, that's exactly what I want to do. But you can read through those. If I went through every one of these, I would really be here for a long time, so I know I'm probably down to about 15 minutes. But I do want to share just a little bit of information about the Aspiring Administrators Academy. We did have 11 participants, 6 females, 5 males. Only 10 completed the survey. 1 was on maternity leave. We had 3 elementary people, 2 district, and 6 high schools. We've had 2 people apply for admin jobs that were in the Aspiring, which I think is huge. Next, you can see my total transparency. Obviously, you can see my evaluations from the principals for the last 2 years. There's my scores. On the additional documents, you can see where I was appointed to the State Textbook Commission and where I completed the Prospective Superintendent's Academy. And obviously, in total transparency on the last page, there I have given every one of you 2 pictures of me without a stitch of makeup on. However, I am justified. In both instances, I had just completed 26.2 miles. I have completed 2 marathons, the first one in November of 2018 and the last one in December of 2024. Again, as consistent as a hair in a biscuit, they used to say. Next, on the bottom is a cross-stitch project that I started in 1994, and I completed that in 2020. Questions?
Questions? Thank you, Dr. Farley.
I do have a closing, if that's okay. I just wanted to make sure no one had any questions. Okay?
Go ahead.
When you think of your years in school, you often think of relationships, whether that's your friends' groups or a school personnel that you had a special relationship with. Those bonds are invaluable, and they help make the school experience what it is, as well as mold us as individuals. Theodore Roosevelt said, "People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." This is definitely true for students as well as for me. I know many of the employees of the school system and many of them by name. I care for them and the students. I want the very best for our employees, all of them, and all of the students. My dedication to Cumberland County Schools is evident in my professional record. 26 consecutive years in various capacities. I want Cumberland County Schools to be a leader in academics, athletics, and operations. I want us to be the systems others call and want to follow. Many will say they know I care. I ask you for the opportunity to show what I know and lead Cumberland County Schools.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Farley.
Dr. Farley.
Thank you.
Appreciate the extra packet as well with all the information.
Well, you know, I've got this if anybody wants
To peruse it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
13 minutes.
13. Oh, I could have read every comment.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
That was amazing.
Yes, yes, it was.
So Thursday, we need to be prepared to vote.
Excuse me. Yeah.
That is going to be on the agenda.
Yes, we will discuss and vote Thursday at the regular meeting.
Okay.
If y'all have other questions.
Do we hand in our summaries or, nope, they're just for us?
Thursday, yeah.
Just for us, we vote,
But
okay.
Thursday, we'll hand them in.
Yeah.
Okay, so once we vote, those are submitted at the end of the meeting,
Summaries?
summaries.
Summaries.
They'll go on file.
They go on file, okay.
So the next steps in the process, like, we're gonna deliberate, discuss, vote on a candidate, and then go into who's gonna negotiate contract for said candidate.
Once we decide on who we're picking, yes, we will nominate someone to negotiate a contract.
Okay.
And then they come back to us with the negotiated contract for us to discuss and vote
Yes,
on.
we'll either do that at a special call meeting or at the next meeting. We need to do it pretty quick though. July 1's coming.
Yeah, exactly. Right around the corner.
Yeah, so it would have.
also depend on the conditions of the negotiation, how long that takes.
Right. So if we can come to a negotiated contract, then it would need to be a special called meeting, because that won't be before our board meeting.
Right. But when we select someone Thursday night, kind of be prepared to put some parameters out there for a contract. Ranges of salaries, some
Do we-
requirements, anything you want to be in the contract. Then we'll select somebody to negotiate that.
So basically using the format of the one that we worked with Billy?
Yes. Unless you've got a better plan.
Not me, Scott might.
That was fine.
So does everybody still have a copy of that to look at in order to come with any
Dig it out. I think I'm pretty sure.
recommendations or-
We have Diane.
I think at one time we had one pretty well agreeable.
Glad enough I'm here.
I think we should use that as our starting point.
Yeah. Okay, well, as long as everybody has I was asking if everybody had a copy of
Yeah,
that, so.
get it out and read it.
Yeah. Okay, so if everybody's got that, then you can
Pretty sure I do.
refresh your memory on it and come to the table on Thursday with the parameters like Mr. King mentioned.
Would you all like me to email it for just to have, or?
Yes.
hard copy?
If you've
I will
got
say
a-
yes, thank
You've
you.
got a sanitized version without names and stuff, yeah.
Okay, I can do that.
If there's no other questions or comments or business before the board this evening,
Jessica? Yeah? Good.
we will adjourn.